Supporting Ukraine is just, it's the right thing to do, and that's regardless of your heritage. I think as volunteers we get more out of it than anybody else. I would encourage Ukrainian health workers to, not feel ashamed of your country, not feel that to be good at what you do or to have, a high professional standing, you need to go abroad or you need to do this or do that. I think with organisations like CMA, there are some great opportunities. You can learn a lot. We are an interconnected community now, and there are people who are willing, across the world to help you with your learning and upskilling. And you have so much opportunity to make a difference here in your country. Be proud to be Ukrainian. I'm proud of my little bit of Ukrainian, so be proud. You have a lot to be proud of. It's an amazing country, amazing people, and an amazing organisation that you can work with and get support from, and can contribute to your healthcare system and make a difference. So as you know, I have Ukrainian roots, and my grandfather was Ukrainian. I was actually very close to my grandfather. So in my early years, he was very much involved in raising me, and we stayed very close until he died in 1992. And in fact, in my university years, I was living with my grandfather. And my grandfather was a very proud Ukrainian. He was heavily involved in activism during the Soviet years, writing for underground papers, communicating with partisans, and just really involved in the fight for Ukrainian independence. And so I grew up hearing his stories of the Ukrainian fight for freedom over the centuries, his pride in Ukrainian culture. And as he told me, we were descended from Zaporizhian Cossacks, and he would, always say to me, "You're a Cossack girl." And he brought me up to be very proud of that and to understand my Ukrainian culture. He also brought me up to understand the role that faith and family and country played in Ukrainian culture, and also in our lives. And he taught me a lot about loving God and doing what's good and right and justice. So I owe him a lot. And so I guess I grew up with a real deep understanding of what it meant to be Ukrainian. Although I think until I came to Ukraine, I didn't fully understand it. So yes, that's definitely played a part in my interest in coming to Ukraine initially when I first came. It was a dream I always had, something we couldn't do in the Soviet years because of my grandfather's activism. And sadly, I only got to come here after war started, and so haven't been able to go visit my grandfather's village. However, I do like to emphasise that my Ukrainian heritage is not the primary reason that I or my husband or our charity support Ukraine, because I truly believe that it's more about the injustice of the situation, and that supporting Ukraine is just, it's the right thing to do, and that's regardless of your heritage. And I honestly believe that even if I had no Ukrainian connection at all, I would still be doing this. Yes, so I think when I came to Ukraine in July 23 and saw things for myself, and I guess that's just a human thing that, we tend to get more passionate about things that become real for us when we get to see them and touch them, and so getting to travel this country and going to places where entire villages had been destroyed by war, and people were trying to rebuild their lives amongst the rubble and the mines and explosives, and hearing bombs and drones, but seeing the resilience of people who were continuing through these things, and the amazing work of Ukrainian volunteers and organisations and churches. I guess it really inspired me and made it much more personal. And yes, I guess my heritage my roots played a part in things, in that, every time I saw these amazing examples of bravery and resilience and strength and strong faith, and it really brought to life for me the things that my grandfather had always talked about. And, always in the back of your mind, you're like, is some of this just stories? I was like, no, this is real. My husband and family are very supportive. In fact, so we have children that stay with us who are from an Aboriginal community where I work, and we look after them. And my husband had to stay behind to help them through school. Otherwise, he would have come with me. Yeah, again, because it's about doing what's right. My husband has no Ukrainian blood, but he is just as passionate about helping Ukraine, and is just as passionate about, how unjust this war is and how terrible it is what's happening here. And he would do anything to support it, including let me come here. And I'm not saying he doesn't worry, but yeah, he supports it. So this time was a little bit different, and I worked very closely with Christian Medical Association of Ukraine, myself and another Australian doctor who generously gave of his time to come here as well. And we've been travelling around the country doing mobile clinics. We've also been lecturing to doctors and medical students, doing ALS courses, contributing to the conference that Christian Medical Association of Ukraine ran in Odessa. And I also had the chance to spend some time with one of the doctors in one of the main hospitals that receives patients from the front line. Look, I think medical volunteering probably encapsulates all of those things that you said. And, people say, good on you, you're so good, you're doing that. Well, actually, I think as volunteers, we get more out of it than anybody else. And whether that's, the satisfaction of knowing that you're helping someone, that you're standing with them. So I think it's really important that as a volunteer, you don't come to, stand over someone or above them, but you stand with them. It should be an act of solidarity and working together with people. And if you approach it in that way, it has much greater richness, and the relationships that you can experience in these, in volunteering, the exchange of information. And it's always two ways. So, I came to teach things, but I also learnt a lot of things as well. And it's very rewarding when you do get feedback that you've made some contribution, but you also are inspired by the people that you work alongside. And I think that's really, really rich. It's also, about encouraging people and providing hope and moral support. Honestly, yes, I'm a very experienced medical educator. I think some of the education I provided has probably been helpful, but, maybe a lot of the things I've provided are not particularly special or couldn't have been done by somebody else or somebody here in Ukraine. But I do feel like for a lot of Ukrainians, it was just encouraging to know that someone was coming from far away to stand with them and to support them, that they're not alone, that they're not forgotten. And I think that applies even from people within your own country. So, if a Ukrainian doctor who's maybe living in a more peaceful area goes to work with someone who's working in a more difficult situation, that gives them support and encouragement as well, and is really uplifting for them, but for the people they're helping, but it can also be uplifting for the volunteer as well, and inspiring. So yeah, I think you get a lot out of being a medical volunteer. So maybe it's actually a little bit selfish. Yeah, so interestingly, I think a little bit of it might be the Ukrainian roots, but I think it's been more helpful for me that in Australia I've worked in cross-cultural situations. So because I mostly work with people in remote Aboriginal communities, so that's a different culture, that's our First Nation people. You have to approach your work with an understanding of culture. So, I know from this work that if I go into a different place, I need to get to know people, I need to listen, I need to understand, what's important for them in their setting, how does their system work, what are their beliefs. And so I think when you come to work in a different country, no matter where it is, it's very similar. So it's really important when you come here not to go, well, I know this is how we do it, I know best and you should all do it this way, but try and have that two-way understanding and learn, what is your system and what is it like for you and what are the beliefs of your patients and how do they react to things. So, most of my contact with Ukrainian medics has been through Christian Medical Association of Ukraine and working with them in mobile clinics. And, it's actually been very inspiring for both myself and my colleague Chris. We've both said the same thing, that, we're inspired by their commitment, their persistence, the fact that they care so much about, their patients and their people and their country and, giving so much of themselves to help patients. They're, generally very open to learning and, sharing things. So, it's been very, very easy from that point of view. We've also had medical students translating with us, who are obviously the future doctors. And that's been a fantastic experience. And it's been fantastic for us to get to know them, to be inspired by them. I mean, some of these students are amazing. They're studying medicine, but they're also volunteering to help us with the translation, but helping so there were some I met who were volunteering for 3 other organisations, so wonderful experience for us to meet them, but also to be able to then share our knowledge with them as well. In terms of, clinical skills and knowledge, I confess I'm coming from a country that's probably got one of the highest standards of family medicine training in the world. So, I do see gaps, but that's something, it's not because of, lack of desire to learn or lack of intelligence or anything. So, I'm really looking forward to an opportunity to share some of, this experience that we have. And I think, Ukrainian doctors are just very inspiring, and I think they will be... they will really take it and use it. I've thought, it's really difficult for someone who's not living in this situation to think of something to say, but I understand that over the years, I think Russian propaganda has had a much deeper effect on people's psyche than we realise, perhaps even my own. And I suspect that there are a generation of Ukrainians who've grown up maybe feeling a little bit less than, and as if, maybe not fully understanding the richness of their history and their heritage. And, we know everyone's got the memes now about the brave Ukrainians and whatever, but, when you do understand a little bit more about, the history of Ukrainians and what they've been up against and what they've survived and what they've, been through and yet maintained their culture and their faith and their language, despite, every effort to erase them. I think I would like more Ukrainians to understand this and be really proud of this and, be inspired by this to not give up. And I know they're not, and you know, everyone is so brave, but to really understand that that's part of who they are, and and that everyone needs to pull together and be united and be proud of their country and be proud of who they are, and you know, work together to overcome this situation. I really value the partnership that our charity OPT has with Christian Medical Association of Ukraine, and what has been really great to see is how open CMA is to you know, working together with different people and being open to suggestions. You know, so often it's human nature, and particularly with NGOs, I've seen it in other places, you know, where you want to own everything, or say, you know, we're wonderful, we're the best, or, you know, only give money to us and don't talk to those people because they're, you know, we don't want to, you know, we're going to do the same thing as them, but, you know, let's not talk to them. And at the end of the day, that's not helping the people that your NGO is meant to help. And those sort of values have always been really important to us in our NGO in the last couple of decades. And so to find another NGO that has similar values is really important to us. And, you know, an example is yesterday we were having a meeting where, you know, I had lots of feedback to give and ideas and suggestions for improvements, and you know, very often people could easily be, you know, go, oh, don't, you know, you're telling us we're not fantastic and we don't want to talk to you anymore or something. But everyone was just really, you know, open and discussing things and appreciative and wanting that feedback, and just, you know, to me that's a sign of integrity, and it builds trust. And I think that you can achieve so much more for the people that you're trying to help when you have those kind of values and attitudes. So I think, you know, whether it's countries or NGOs or, you know, anybody who's working together across, you know, countries or, you know, anywhere, I think those things are really important. You need to be able to be open to change and honest dialogue. So. I think that you know, the medical community is going to be and needs to be more interconnected and global, and you know, whether it's you know, coming to volunteer in different countries, or, you know, sharing you know, education opportunities, particularly with so much stuff being online nowadays. There's so much opportunity to help people, even if you don't, without leaving your country, and sharing skills. So really there's no reason why, you know, someone in Ukraine can't access the, you know, highest level of, you know, some surgical skill in any country in the world, and vice versa. You know, the things that Ukraine is learning, particularly during war, you know, there's no reason they can't share that information with other people around the globe. And, you know, it goes back to what I said about medical volunteerism. I think the idea of being a volunteer, it's not just about, obviously it's important to help, and that's something that's really important to me, and making a difference. But, you know, you get so much out of it, and the more you travel around the world or meet with other people who are in different situations, it really it's a really rich experience that enhances your learning, your professionalism, your attitude to not only medicine but life in general. And I really encourage people, whether it's within your own country or across countries, to just really try and connect with people and, you know, step out of your comfort zone and look for those opportunities, but with the right attitude, that you're going it's a two-way street. Look, making volunteerism a part of a system, I think it sounds good in theory, and perhaps something that should be worked towards. I guess my concern with that is that as soon as you start making something, maybe compulsory or embedded in a system, it may be that you end up getting people who are doing it for the wrong reasons, and that can be very damaging. So as someone who used to run volunteer groups, we would have to be very careful screening, people to make sure that the right people came and who are going to have a good, attitude. But, I do think that over time you can change a culture so that it becomes more of something that people want to do or expected to do. And I think we do have that in Australia to some degree, in that even at a lower level. So it's kind of an expectation in Australia that, you'll volunteer your time in some sense, whether it's to teach some medical students or, help your colleagues or... I think most doctors at some level in the community do some volunteer work. And then if there's a disaster, we have, bushfires and floods, and often people will all get together and volunteer and help. But, I think it's maybe something that needs to be embedded into the medical culture over time, in the same way that the medical culture also needs to develop in a way that so something that's very strong in Australia is that you always teach the next generation of doctors. So a senior doctor teaches a junior doctor teaches an intern teaches a medical student, 6 years teaches a fourth year. So this is the culture we have in Australia. And I think, that took a long time to change, but it can change. In the same way, whether it's Ukraine or any other country, I think over time you can change that culture to value volunteering and teaching and things like this. Yeah. As anywhere, people are flawed, so sometimes it doesn't always work well. But generally, we have a pretty good culture of mentoring. So if someone's a training doctor, the expectation is that they are working with what we call a supervisor, so a more senior doctor who is meeting with them often daily, supporting them, is able to go to them for advice and so on.
When you want to find some mentor, like when I was a student, it's really hard because when I came to the hospital for practice, I just walking around and just see the patients, and that's all. I wanted to learn something, but I didn't have opportunity or a mentor, and it's a really big question for us.
I think, and you're right, I saw this in the hospital I went to, and I think that's why one of the other projects that CMA Ukraine does is really valuable. So, your Educare, and personally I would like to see that expanded, because I think if Ukrainian doctors who are interested in learning get an opportunity to go to a place where there is mentoring and someone who's willing to mentor them and teach them things, not only are they learning something, but then when they come back, they're probably more inspired to then teach someone else or share this learning or see the value of mentoring. So I would strongly encourage, particularly, global partners, people across the world, if you have an opportunity to host a Ukrainian doctor and help with their costs and give them a chance to come and learn and experience some good mentoring and support, I think it's incredibly valuable, and it will contribute to helping change the system. I think maybe I've touched on this a little bit already, but as the founder of our charity, and I know my fellow directors feel the same, it's really wonderful to find an organisation that shares so many values, and we really appreciate, the work that CMA does. It's also really nice that I also happen to really like all the people who work at CMA. They're all such lovely people, and they're all very inspiring. They work so hard. So many of them are so young. Well, they seem young to me, but are just doing amazing things way beyond their years. So yeah, it's really, for me, it's a very special personal relationship, and one that I hope continues for a long time. I'm not sure how to put that into a short sentence because when I do go talking about it in Australia, I do 1 hour presentations. So I describe the different projects that you do. I talk about, your Educare and the mobile clinics, the humanitarian aid warehouse, the Burns project, the first aid training, the ultrasound training. So, I go through all the different projects that you do, and I explain that the things that we value about CMA is that they have low overheads, we say, so not spending lots of money on PR campaigns or unnecessary things, like very efficient and effective. No money. And again, it's a value we share because we also spend no money on lots of things. But donors also appreciate that, and I also talk about the passion of the people who are involved in CMA and the great work that they do. And the other thing that I really emphasise when I'm talking about CMA is how they really work together well with other organisations and, have a lot of humility and just ability to work together well. For example, I found someone who was willing to donate a lot of goods for some rehabilitation in a couple of hospitals in Ukraine, but needed some help to get it there. And all I had to do was ask CMA, and it's like, oh yeah, sure, no problem, no questions, who's going to pay for this, or, but we see it's something that can help. It's a great donation. Let's see what we can do. And, didn't even say, oh, you need to, give us a social media post to say thank you, or, there's nothing like that. Just get in there, work with people and get the job done. So I think for our particular charity, a lot of our donations are a result of the fact that people have trust. So we've built a lot of trust in our community over the years because of the way we practice and the fact that we have no paid positions. So all of us are volunteers, and we have a lot of transparency. You can see all our financial reports and see where every cent goes. And also, I guess, as a doctor who's done a lot of different things in the community, that's helped build trust in our audience. And so, if I can say, hey, I've been there, I've seen this for myself, and I trust them, you can trust me. And so I think that's really important. And in fact, I have a lot of donors who say, I wanted to help Ukraine, but I wasn't sure where to give money, if it would get there, or if it would be used, in a good way, or this big organisation spends too much on administration, and so now I want to give to you. So I think the trust aspect is really important. It would be great to work together to share more of the on the ground stories of what's actually happening here, what you guys are doing, and also to for our audience to hear how important their contributions are, because again sometimes in fact a lot of our donors are giving quite small amounts, but together it really adds up, and I think it means a lot to people like that to know that it is really making a difference. It means a lot to you. So similar to what I said before, I would encourage Ukrainian health workers to not feel ashamed of your country, to not feel that to be good at what you do, or to have a high professional standing, you need to go abroad, or you need to do this or do that. I think with organisations like CMA, there are some great opportunities. You can learn a lot. We are an interconnected community now, and there are people who are willing, across the world to help you with your learning and upskilling. And you have so much opportunity to make a difference here in your country. I'd encourage you to work with organisations like CMA, volunteer. It brings a whole different level of richness to your professional life. And remember your history and, be, what do I say? Just, be proud. Be proud to be Ukrainian. I'm proud of my little bit of Ukrainian, so be proud. You have a lot to be proud of. It's an amazing country, amazing people, and an amazing organisation that you can work with and get support from, and can contribute to your healthcare system and make a difference. And razón de per amor.